Hey everyone, Sean here with Maise. It's my Mercedes Jurassic Park Lost World build. And today is part 3 of this series. We did a little work on the tailgate. Now this section here, I had to put in a couple of hinges that match the movie, but I also wanted to make it functional. So it took a little bit of work, a little bit of measuring, and a little bit of math, but I got it figured out. So what I did is I matched the hinge up to the movie on the top one, and I went ahead and mounted that, and it will actually hold the door up by itself. But you can see in there that they also put this bottom hinge, and like I said, I want to make it functional. So the problem with this bottom one is that the bumper is so deep right here. I actually had to make a steel box behind there and weld it to the body. That way it spaced this hinge out enough to match this top hinge. Now I ran a plumb bob from this top hinge down to the center of this one. That way I knew I had this out far enough and it was centered. And then I looked back on the movie pictures, and it looks pretty similar to where they had mounted it. These had to be lined up to make the tailgate open correctly. If you had it off, it either wouldn't line up with bolting it together, or it just wouldn't plain open. It would bind up. So metal box is made. It's welded on. I welded the hinge to the metal box. Could have bolted it, but it's going to be a permanent addition anyways. Why not weld it and make it more solid? So this is all cut out. I used an air saw for this. Worked nicely with the plastic. Once you get the outer plastic out, there's some reinforcement plastic in behind that, and I used the air saw for that as well. For the spots that I couldn't get to, like a pair of tin snips cuts it really nicely, so I also use that. On the inside of these bolts, I actually used the YJ factory plates that were on the inside. They're pre-drilled, pre-tapped. It makes a nice wide base to attach this to. That way you don't rip it out when trying to open this tailgate or close it. On this bottom one, I was able to use that plate, but I'm going to have to drill another hole here also through that back plate, and then bolt it through there. This hole here I'll fill with weld and grind it smooth, clean this hinge up. You won't even know it was there. If you do look at the pictures of the movie one, these are spaced pretty close together on this bottom one. You need that second screw in there. This one, if you don't, it's just going to loosen up. It'll twist on you, and it won't be as solid. And I got this opening and closing really nicely, but with that second bolt in there, just make it that much better. Speaking of which, I'll open and close it for you. So this latch up here, I just found a random latch on eBay to make it work, because obviously the factory latch is at the bottom and it's at a severe angle. So to get this to open and close, it was just physically impossible. You would have had to like lift up on the tailgate and push it in. That's just not right. It's designed to go up and down, not in and out. So I did put this latch here, and it pops open nicely. I really like how that pops. And then it does open quite nicely. These hinges aren't new. I mean, I pulled them off a used tailgate. I thought about buying new ones, but they work fine, so that is what it is. The latch here, I did the same thing as with the hinges, as I made a plate for the back side of it, and then I bolted it into the body, and that was before I put the cap on for the C-pillar. Otherwise there's really no access to it. So I did that first, put the cap on, latch was in place, and this took a little bit of finagling to get it to work correctly. Got it pretty close, but I left it a little loose and then matched up my striker I made for my tailgate. So now it lines up pretty good. It opens and closes pretty good. Like I said, once I have that other bolt in there, it'll take out a little bit of this flex. You can see, hopefully you can see that little flex there, but that makes it off just a little bit. Once I do have this bolted in, then I can adjust this hinge a little bit just by loosening these bolts and then moving it up or down or in or out to give me my adjustment. At the top here, cut back as far as I can go with this body line for the roof. This right here is just a cardboard template of a piece of steel I'm going to cut to make this piece. So I'm going to make one here, one on the other side, and then this crossbow right here is really the only thing that supports this roof. It's very thin metal. What I'm going to do is, there's a couple, hopefully you can see these, there's a couple bolt holes right here on each side. I'm going to take probably a 1/4 inch piece of plate and run that from side to side following the shape of this bow. And then on the outside here, there'll be a nice trim piece that goes all the way across down on the other side, and that'll hide this part. It'll look smooth with the sides. It'll transition nicely to the roof. Probably on the roof, I'll probably use some silicone, or maybe something like this factory stuff they use, which is a nice squishy stuff that the roof skin stuck to seal that up. And then the headliner will also be kind of sleeved inside that C-channel piece and then screwed to that roof panel, so it'll flow nicely. It'll look good from the outside, it'll look good from the inside. And that being said, you can see my panel is still missing here. I did slide it on the other side just to see what it looked like. The movie one used polished aluminum diamond plate to go right here, across the doors, across the back. Not really digging the look. I'm kind of torn whether I'm going to do it or not at this point, so we'll see. I kind of like how the factory panels fit this shape right here. Is this one's still in here? I mean, it makes it look like it was factory made that way. I really like that. The only problem is where the C-pillar was, I had to cut that off. And I could put like a nice little cap over that. But like I said, I haven't really decided yet, so we'll see. On the tailgate, obviously there was arms that went up here and here for the windshield and this top piece. And after I cut those off, there's a pinch weld seam across the bottom here for the windshield, and I just rolled that over and flattened it out. And it's still strong, hasn't affected that at all. And then what I'm going to do, cardboard is your best friend. Made this template, which would basically sit on here. I'll make this out of metal. As you can see, it's just the shape of the top. Nice little bow to it. And then I left some extra here on the back. So what I'll do is I'll cut this out of a piece of steel, and then right at this line here, I'll just fold that over, just like that. And I can screw it from the back through here into the tailgate. And on the top, I'm going to drill and recess some holes here. I'm going to use the nut zert tool, drill some holes along the top of the tailgate here, and then I'll be able to actually bolt the panel on. It'll be nice and solid. And I'm doing that because the top of this is just, it's not flat at all. You know, with the pinch weld folded over, the actual tailgate the way it was, it's just not a very flat surface to work with. And You could make it flat. It would take a lot more metal work to do that. It's just not really worth it. So, you know, making this panel that will fit right over that. It's quick, easy. It'll look really nice, and it'll give a nice fat lip up here at the top. But I think all in all, it'll look really good. It'll function really well. And for this piece, I don't really have any pictures to go off of for the top of the tailgate. What they did with it, or the inside, how they pulled it together, but you're really not going to notice this piece that much. So I think it's the best way that I could do it and make it look nice and functional. So we'll be cutting that on a later video. Definitely want to make sure whenever you're cutting or welding, you disconnected the battery. Make sure you got any flammable sources away. I have not removed the fuel tank yet. I do have a shielding blanket in there, but this section here where I welded the hinge in is, you know, it's pretty far away from anything flammable, so not really too worried about that. But there you go. That's the tailgate, and that's where I'm at. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe.